Folks, we're in a mood. I'm sick. Qasim's sick. We're tired. We're recovering from God knows what. So we're gonna be a bit spicy.
Yeah,
I spent in all fairness, for people who always say this, Qasim, why don't you guys mock Trump and why don't you guys mock MAGA? Literally, you haven't paid attention to our Substacks or read our articles. This is what we do. That being said, you need to have an opposition party. You have to take on this fascist movement. You have to take on this new Jim Crow. You have to take on the 21st century's Klan that has replaced the hood with a MAGA hat. So you need fighters. And what we've seen, Qasim, is that Republicans openly are just teabagging us, to use a gamer reference, mocking us, literally saying, we're going to redistrict. It's going to be illegal. We're going to ignore our state's Supreme Court. I give you Ohio. DeSantis, I'll just do illegal shit because I know the state Supreme Court's mine. I'm just going to redraw a map that I already redrew. Stop me, bitches. You see Abbott in Texas doing the same thing. You see Donald Trump selling 2028 merchandise, openly saying, I'm going to be around for 8 and 9 years, telling Republicans publicly, take over state elections, literally going and raiding Fulton County, prosecuting with bullshit cases against Letitia James, James Comey, arresting journalists like Don Lemon, openly mocking us and ridiculing us. And then in these Democratic-led states where I'm at right now, Virginia, and my home state of California, at least the Democrats said, you know what? We'll leave it up to the people. So they left it up to the people. Millions of people came out and said, we want fair maps, F MAGA. And then this Virginia Supreme Court decided, you know what? We could have stopped this election this vote in the first place if it was unconstitutional. But we saw the result and we don't like it. So we're going to invalidate the will of the people. And then after invalidating the will of the people, I read out Abigail Spanberger's tweet. This pathetic tweet starts off good, but in the second half says, well, we're going to go and just vote in record numbers in the midterms. And then you saw another Virginia Democrat leader. Literally, I'm not making this up, Qasim. His public statement started with, we respect the court's decision. All right. So here I am now with all that as table setting. Here's Greg Sargent with a whopper of a piece that came out an hour ago. He has a scoop where he interviews the Dem leaders of the Virginia State Senate. The Dem leader of the Virginia State Senate. That's who he interviewed. Top Virginia Dems have decided against exercising a procedural end run around the state Supreme Court ruling that cost Dems 4 House seats. The Trump wins big as Virginia Dems won't go nuclear to save 4 House seats. The state's Democrats have decided against forcing resignations on the state Supreme Court to preserve their redistricting. Funny how Republicans, this is Greg, funny how Republicans always find a way and Democrats don't. Your response?
There's a lot to respond to, but I'll start with the old saying that if a genie granted Democrats 3 wishes, they would negotiate down to 1 wish and then wish for something that they think Republicans would like. And that's exactly what we're seeing here right now. Republicans in the minority seem to be stronger than Democrats in the majority. And that's what's infuriating on so many levels. And I want to, actually, first, let me start about this issue of why don't you ever go after Trump? The people making that claim are, to me, exhibiting their own ignorance and racism. Because, Wajahat, you and I remember in 2011 when Trump started with the birtherism, we were at the forefront 15 years ago calling this out that, hey, this is racism. This is white supremacy. Yep. Stop this nonsense now. I remember in 2015 when Keith Ellison was in front of George Stephanopoulos and Maggie Haberman and said, hey, we've seen stranger things in Minnesota with Jesse Ventura. This man has momentum. He could win the nomination and be president. And Maggie Haberman and George Stephanopoulos laughed in his face. They laughed in a black Muslim elected official's face for even suggesting such a thing because we saw it coming. He saw it coming. And we were laughed at and ridiculed. And now, when we ask Democrats to be an actual opposition party, we're told, well, why aren't you going after Trump? My dude, we were 15 years ago. And we're sick and tired of trying to convince people he's a fascist. So we're trying to get the only hope of an opposition party to check to see if they have the testicular fortitude and actual spine and stand up. And when we see Democratic voters coming out in record numbers and voting for something overwhelmingly, and then having the rules be changed from underneath them, and then Democratic Party leadership saying, well, we'll just have to vote harder. That's just not a strategy. It doesn't work. Since Shelby versus Holder, people don't realize this. Since the 2013 ruling of Shelby versus Holder, there have been more than 100,000 polling locations shut down. 90% of them are in Black and Latino majority communities. And what that is doing is shifting the vote just enough, a couple of percentage points. See, people think that if you want to be anti Black, you have to shut down all Black people's right to vote. You don't. You just need to decrease the percentage by a couple of points to make sure that you get to 50.1% of the vote.
So,
And that's exactly what's happening here. And for the Democratic Party to have an actual solution and decide not to do it and just vote harder, it's asinine and it is continuing to perpetuate the advancement of fascism. And then they get upset at us. Well, why aren't you railing against Trump? Because he's a fascist. I don't need to reason with a fascist. I need to try to reason with the people that I elected in power to stop the fascist.
well, look at this. 9 minutes ago, Vote Hub. Actually, this came out more than 9 minutes ago. It was earlier today. South Carolina lawmakers will take up this proposed congressional map tomorrow. The plan would eliminate a Democratic-leaning seat represented by Jim Clyburn, +1 GOP, -1 Debs. So literally that one Democratic district that is Clyburn's district, wait for it, which has, 47%, I think, Black voters that voted
Yeah.
for James Clyburn. So now the new map is completely red. And then you can't even hide the racism. Here's our GOP representative, Ralph Norman. He's so racist, he doesn't even realize he sounds racist. This is the exact quote. Jim Clyburn, I like him personally, but he does not represent the rest of South Carolina, which is conservative. His district is close to 47% African American.
I often used to say that back in during Jim Crow America, the saying was that yeah, we're racist, but racism is right, so this is okay. Now the saying from MAGAs is we're not racist, we're right, so therefore it can't be racist, and so therefore we're okay. The end result being the exact same of an advancement of white narcissism and a suppression of Black and brown voters. And I think this is the part that I don't understand why corporate Democrats like Abigail Spanberger don't seem to understand that you can't just expect to vote your way out of voter suppression. It just doesn't work. There's not a scenario in history where people simply voted their way out of voter suppression because voter suppression, and Dr. Michelle Alexander talks about this in her book, The New Jim Crow, is that it's not a matter of ignorance. People aren't racist because they're ignorant. And this was one of the biggest mythologies that when I read her book, when it came out in 2008 or 9, it completely changed my paradigm, my thinking of how racism works. It's not just that you educate people and then racism goes away. Because when you look at the systems of white supremacy being enacted today, they are extraordinarily sophisticated. The SAVE Act, for example, basically the voter suppression bill, is an extraordinarily sophisticated way to make it seem like it's a neutral voting bill to protect voter integrity, but it's actually disproportionately harming women. Why is it harming women? Well, it's going to harm Republican women too, right? Of course it will. But women, if you look at the last 12 presidential elections, have voted between 8 and 15% more for Democrats. And so if you're going to harm women, you're going to harm more blue voters than you are going to harm red voters. It's a deeply sophisticated strategy of misogyny here. When you look at the voter ID laws that they want to pass, this is not saying that we don't need voter ID. We already have voter ID. Wajahat, when you go register to vote for the first time, what do you show? Your ID. What voter ID laws do is they change the ID that's required now to actually vote, as opposed to when you verified your identity when registering to vote. Very subtle. And if you're not paying attention, you're thinking that Democrats just want any old undocumented immigrant to vote. No, we already have voter ID. What these voter ID bills are doing is requiring second, third, and fourth identification
That's
when
right.
there's no evidence of fraud. So it's extraordinarily sophisticated. So when people like Abigail Spanberger or Josh Shapiro or these other corporate Democrats come out and say, well, just vote harder, what they're telling us is that they know that their power is secure because they're not a threat to the status quo. And so they don't give a damn. I can't, I'm going to find her because I want to attribute proper credit to this a Black content creator and influencer who said this beautiful comment where she said that where is the No Kings protest Yeah, this is Shai Imani goes, where are the No Kings folks for black voting rights?
Yeah,
Where are they right now? Why aren't we marching 8, 10, 12 million on the streets for black voting rights? And this is the problem that the white supremacy that we're condemning on the right, it is still subtle and enough on the left, and we need to be able to call it out. Otherwise, we are continuing to see this power of fascism that's coming in from through Trump, and we're not going to be able to get out of it by voting. I don't know how to say that enough. I feel like a broken record, but until and unless Democrats recognize that the rule book is gone, there is no rule book. The norms that Merrick Garland talked about are gone. Until we recognize that, we are then slowly boiling ourselves in the hot water as a frog and destroying our own democracy, destroying our own chances to come back from the grips of fascism right now.
because Qasim, you hit the nail on the head in the sense that it's affecting black voters right now. So
Yeah.
they don't care.
Yeah.
Their nest is feathered. They're fine. So pro-Palestine activists, F you.
Yep.
Transgender activists, F you. Undocumented immigrants, F you. El Salvadorans, F you.
Yep.
Blacks, F you. This isn't affecting me.
Yeah.
I'm okay. It won't come after me. It always starts with black voters. That's how Jim Crow began, right? But whatever they do with black voters is what's going to happen. Now you're going to witness it because they're openly doing it. South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. They're going to do this with the rest of us, just like with ICE. Go kill the Browns. We don't care. Then ICE was in Minnesota schools, and you heard white people say, why are they in our schools? Then you heard Minnesota MAGA whites saying, wait a second, why are you all like terrorizing our city? Then they killed a white woman. Then they killed a white man. So this is the plan. They're going to disenfranchise all of you, but they're starting with black voters. And this is what Joan Walsh said. She just wrote a piece in the Nation. It came out 30 minutes ago. And this was her Blue Sky post. I'm tired of Democrats conceding that the only answer for racist laws is that we have to vote more and harder and better. That basically means black Democrats, as well as Democrats of other races who live in multicultural districts, but mainly black Democrats. Democrats have to work harder to jump these hurdles rather than working to get their voters out. Republican voters don't have to go to a government office and prove they're not Nazis, Klan members, insurrectionists, dyed-in-the-wool racists, for instance, before casting a vote. Maybe they should. And that's what people are missing, is that the onus is on poor people, on black voters, on brown voters in the South, because a large part of the black and brown population that lives in this country, folks, is in the South. And they're the ones who are suffering under these Jim Crow 2.0 laws. So what you're saying is, hey, blacks, it's mostly blacks, not just blacks, though, but it's, hey, mostly blacks, be superhuman. And you come out and do everything and then some. And we're still not going to help you. And then maybe, just maybe, we might help you. But even then, we're not. We're going to strike a side deal, and we'll be sure we'll be okay as long as the system keeps running for the benefit of the rest of us. And what I always tell Qasim, what I've been saying since the past week is, what people don't realize when people say, "Oh, Wad, you're saying play hardball, then aren't we just going to be just like MAGA?" I refuse to play in a rigged game.
Yep.
This is a rigged. You're an idiot if you play in a rigged game.
Yep.
I'm not an idiot. I'm not that smart, but I'm not that stupid. If you're playing in a rigged game, you're a moron.
Yeah.
When they go low, we go high. Why? I take them out by their goddamn knees. I put them in a chokehold. That's a legal UFC move, right? What you're telling me is you want me to be Charlie Brown, and you know Lucy's going to lift the football,
Yeah.
and you want me to keep running as she lifts the football and fall on my ass. I'm not going to fall on my ass. You're the dumbass who falls on their ass.
Yeah.
I want to play in an unrigged game, so I'll reprogram the game like James T. Kirk, and I'll make sure the Kobayashi Maru is no longer rigged against me.
And I think one of the most frustrating things about all this, I mean, beautifully said, is that we've already seen that simply voting doesn't solve the problem. We saw it in Virginia just now. We voted. We
That's
all
it.
got out.
That's it.
I no longer live in Virginia, but I have leveraged my entire network of social media followers to go and vote. I have a huge following in Virginia because I ran for Congress there 4 terms ago. So people know me, and I was pushing aggressively. And I know for a fact how many emails I got from people saying, thank you for the heads up on this. We're going to go and vote. And they voted. More than 3 million people voted. That's a larger population than most states. And then a 4-3 Virginia Republican-led Supreme Court overturned it. We know that voting alone isn't enough. The Voting Rights Act, which in 2006 was passed unanimously again 98-0 in the Senate, and I think like 434-1 in the House, signed into law by a Republican president. And then the scariest thing in the world happened: a black guy was elected president. And now those same Republicans, many of whom are the same ones who voted for it back in 2006, in 2026 are ready to gut it. And in 2031, when it comes up at this rate, it's going to be stripped completely. But it was passed by a unanimous Congress, which is voted in by the American people, and Supreme Court justices, unelected, unaccountable, unethical, completely corrupt, decided, you know what? We don't care what the will of the people is. We don't care what the will of Congress is, which was explicit in the Voting Rights Act. We are going to gut it and completely effectively remove it. So we know that voting harder simply doesn't work. And what we also know is that the Supreme Court is compromised. Think about this. When we were talking about affirmative action and the idea of advancing race-based initiatives to right historical racist wrongs, the Supreme Court said, no, 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 no. You cannot factor race. That's horrible. That's unacceptable.
Can't do
But
affirmative action. Can't
okay,
factor
okay,
race.
if that's true, then that should apply for ICE as well, right? And the Supreme Court said, well, actually, for ICE, when ICE is profiling people, yeah, then race is just perfectly fine. You're absolutely good to do that.
That's
And so we said,
Kavanaugh,
okay,
folks.
fine. So we can then acknowledge the racism in voting and have districts to ensure that black people have representation. No, no, no. We cannot allow that. That's wrong. Okay, well, then that should also be wrong when having travel bans, right? No, 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 no. Trump can have travel bans based on race all he wants. It's gobbledygook. It's nonsense. There are no rules. And that's why I keep going back to the fact that if Democrats are still playing by rules that don't exist, I'll close my rant with this point that it's a tweet that comes to mind constantly, that politics today is Democrats pointing to a rule book that, hey, a dog can't play basketball while a dog dunks on them over and over and over again. That's what's happening, and that's why we keep losing.
No, yeah. What is the parliamentarian thing? What about the
Yeah,
process? What about the rules?
yeah,
You have control. Interpret the rules to fulfill the will of the people.
that's
This
it.
is what Republicans do. And Republicans don't even have the majority. They don't even give a shit. Look
They
at
don't care.
DeSantis. DeSantis is like, Supreme Court's mine, state legislatures are mine. I'm not even gonna go through the work of going and making this legal. I'm just going to go do it. I'm the governor. I'm going to redraw the maps. Bitch. What are you going to do? Biatch? That's what he
Yeah,
says. That's literally what they're mocking to our
yeah,
face. And then South Carolina is like, we're going to take out that one black district. What are you going to do?
yeah,
Tennessee is like, we're going to divide up this one black district, just like old school Jim Crow. What are you going to do about it? Ohio. Yeah, we know the Supreme Court said that this is unconstitutional, but we control the legislature. What are you going to do?
yep,
Stop us, right? Utah, same thing. Stop us. We don't care.
yep,
And meanwhile, the Virginia Dems, they have the legislature. You have Spanberger, and they're like, no, I don't know. I would just say ignore them, bum rush it, make up a rule, create a rule. Have someone sue, pass a law, do anything. You could, if you're telling me you can't do this, you are useless. And that's what I want to say, Qasim. Is this I'm glad that Blue Anon dislikes me. I'm glad you dislike me. I'm not your ally. I do not worship political parties.
yeah.
I do not worship
That's right.
politicians. I worship God. I'm a Muslim. I don't bend the knee to AOC or Mamdani or Obama or Biden or anyone else. I believe they're all people. I believe they're deeply flawed people because I live in here in DC, Virginia. Most elected officials are weird as F. No offense, Qasim. I know you ran, but you know this as well. To me, they're tools. If a tool to serve the people, if they're a good tool, I promote them. If they're a little weak, I sharpen them. If they're completely dull and not helping me, I replace them. That's all they are.
Yeah,
So I don't worship the Democrats. I know the Blue Anon does. It's strange as hell to me. You go on and worship them. I don't. These people are not going to change. I've been saying it for 10 years. This is who they are, Qasim. This is who they are. They are not built for this fight. They are not made for this moment. I don't know what else. Just trust the evidence of your eyes and
yeah,
ears, folks. So my take on this is I'm not dumb. I know that this is the tool that we have against fascists. I want to sharpen the tool.
yeah,
These people won't get you there. Vote blue no matter who. Why? Why? For another 10 years of this? Vote for the right person. Put the fear of God in them. Literally say, if you don't fight for this, I'm not going to vote. That's what I wanted to tell them. Show up for the midterms. F you. F you. Why should I show up for? Because Qasim, let me tell you this also. I'm in Virginia. What Abigail Spanberger and these Democrats are saying is, you voted. You came out in big numbers, and your vote doesn't mean shit. So
Yeah.
guess what? Come out and vote again in the midterms. And this time, inshallah, we
Yeah.
promise everything
Yeah,
will be fine.
exactly. Yeah,
And to
exactly
some,
right.
they're like, I don't have faith in you. I don't believe in you.
I'll take it even a step further. You know how Facebook gives you your memories of the stuff that you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
posted years ago? I found one from 4 years ago when the vote to codify Roe lost 49-51 in the Senate. And I did the math at the time, and the 49 senators who voted to codify Roe represented 40 million more Americans than the 51 senators who voted against codifying Roe. 40 million more. That's larger than any presidential landslide in recent memory. And yet, the will of 40 million more Americans was thrown in the trash, and the will of the minority was enforced. It's the tyranny of the minority on the majority. And what is the consequence of that? And if you limit it to, oh, well, women don't have the kind of freedom of a reproductive health access, that alone is atrocious enough. But we're talking about a spike in maternal mortality. We're talking about a spike in infant mortality. We're talking about a higher rate of poverty, and it's 3x higher for Black and Indigenous women. We're talking about a strain on the healthcare system. We're talking about record profits for these big health, United Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance companies who are just laughing all the way to the bank, paying their
Yep.
CEOs absurd amounts of money while their frontline workers are literally starving and in poverty wages. This is why we are angry. It's not just that, oh, you didn't vote my way or you didn't fight hard enough. People are dying. People are having their lives destroyed. People are living in poverty. And the stress and the anger that people have from that is palpable. Did you know that there's a direct correlation between poverty and suicide rates? People are unaliving themselves because they can't take it anymore. I mean, there are people who are found who have died by suicide with an eviction notice in their pocket because that to them was better than having to fight eviction. And so this is what I say to corporate Democrats who are like, just vote harder. Your cowardliness is going to follow you to the grave. Whenever your time comes, you and Mayor Garland and all the other feckless fools out there should recognize that you will be remembered as a person that was entrusted with immense power. And rather than wield that power to do good, you focused on self preservation. You focused on what's my next office going to be? What's my higher office going to be? This is, by the way, why I loved AOC's answer when she was asked at the University of Chicago just last week,
That
are
was
you
a
going
good
to run for
answer.
Senate or for president? And she said that people think my ambition is a title. My ambition is much higher than that. It's how do we get universal health care? How do we get a living wage? And I think that's what pisses off these corporate Democrats, the people like Shapiro who are trying to undermine Chris Rabb, who's running for Congress, the people like Chuck Schumer who's trying to undermine Graham Plattner, who's running for Senate. You know, the whole vote blue no matter who crowd who will refuse to vote for a progressive. I think what pisses them off is that they know that they should be running for office for a higher ideal, but inside they only want the power. And it upsets them that somebody who is younger and smarter and better is running for the right reasons. And rather than elevating them, they're doing everything they can to undermine them.
Crush
We
them.
see that, and this is where we need voters to show up and hold them accountable too.
Well, I mean, look, you have the greatest example in front of you is Mamdani. To
Yeah,
this day, they still haven't embraced Mamdani. Why? Because Mamdani said, I'm going to go against the billionaires. I'm going to go against Israel. That's what he said. That's
yeah,
why they want to crush him. I
yeah,
want to give you another example. You tell me about the Shapiro example because I saw it yesterday. You
yeah.
can't make this up, folks. Tell us.
Well, it turns out that two stories broke by Axios and a few other outlets now. That back in 2024, Shapiro actually helped the Republican candidate for treasurer against the Democratic candidate because he found out that the Democratic candidate had criticized him as a pick for VP. And the beautiful irony of all that is that now that treasurer is now his Republican opponent for governor. So he fed the monster. Now the monster is coming after his seat in governor. And more recently, Christopher Rabb, state rep in Pennsylvania, is running for Congress in the bluest district in the entire country. He's the only candidate that is openly anti-APAC, openly condemning the genocide, openly calling for universal health care, openly calling for a living wage to get corporate money out of politics. And
Black man.
Shapiro is undermining him. He does not want him elected because he is anti-genocide, because he is anti-APAC, because he is pro-human rights for all people. It doesn't matter to Shapiro that Rab is on record condemning anti-Semitism in all its forms. It doesn't matter to Shapiro that Rab has talked about the humanity and the compassion that Jewish people deserve because they're human beings. No, because Rab is anti-APAC and anti-genocide, therefore it's not good enough. He must be thrown. This is a Democratic governor going after a Democrat in the bluest seat in the country. This is indefensible and disgusting, but this is the status of our so-called leaders right now. These are the kinds of people that we're railing against.
Yeah, Shapiro going against Rab, a black progressive Democrat, because of course. Uh, you have Schumer and Democrats going against Mamdani because of course. And then I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but talk to us about, I don't know Hassan Piker. I know some people like him. They don't like him. I don't care about Hassan Piker. I know that Hassan Piker is just a proxy for this war where they've now attached him to any Democrat, especially, wait for it, that Arab Muslim Democrat, Abdul El-Sayed. And they spent the past 4 weeks, now 5 weeks, attacking Hassan Piker and used him as a proxy to use as a bludgeon against, let's be honest, Abdul Sayed, also against the genocide, also against APAC, also against billionaires. Qasim, I had a prediction about 4 or 5 weeks ago, knowing where the country was. I said, I predict this will be the Streisand effect. I predict this will only be a boomerang. It will help Abdul Sayed. It will help Hassan Piker. It will further infuriate the right wing of the Democratic Party. It will infuriate Third Way. It will infuriate all the pro APAC corporate consultants and donors. I'm sure you saw the meltdown. The New York Times had a piece recently. Third Way's leader, who's also an APAC fiend. He's losing his mind. Abdullah Sayed is now beating Mallory McMorrow. Your take on this?
Well, the funny thing about the Piker thing is that this was already tried by Cuomo in the race against Mamdani, and how did that work out? People don't care. They genuinely don't care. There's a new poll that came out about Piker, and 80% of people have never heard of him. So, like, they're trying to make a boogeyman out of a guy who's never run for office, has no intention of running for office, has no actual power. He's just an influential streamer, and he's got policy ideas that are anti-genocide. And again, I don't know him personally. I don't care to endorse him or condemn him. But to me, the fact that corporate Democrats are focused on him, when you have Trump, when you have a genocide in Gaza, when you have the illegal war on Iran, when you have the fact that gas is at $7 a gallon in some parts of the country, I've seen as high as $8 in some parts, when you have the fact that reproductive health is under threat, when trans rights and LGBTQ rights are under threat, with these whole anti-Sharia hearings happening, all that crap happening, housing is unaffordable, healthcare is unaffordable, and they're going after a guy that's got like a 19% name recognition rating. It's absurd, and it speaks to how out of touch and detached corporate Democrats actually are. I love the fact that Abdul Sayed said, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and running an unapologetic campaign that is people funded and focused on the needs of working class folks. I love the fact that we're seeing the same thing from Chris Rabb out of Pennsylvania. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to run the race. I got to run Maylard Kiros in Colorado, running a progressive campaign on the same platforms and values. Shreika Chakrabarti in San Francisco doing the same thing. And I think this is what pisses off, again, the establishment Democrats, because they are so poll tested that
Yeah.
they are so worried about, well, what does the latest poll or focus group say I should think? And then I'll tell you what I think. Whereas these young, dynamic, and Chris Rabb's not young in the sense of like 20s and 30s. I think he's in his 50s, but he's dynamic and he's unapologetic, and his policies come from here. They come from his core of who he is, and not from what a poll tested, poll manufactured statement tell them. And so,
My take on this is the reason why they're really pissed off is we told you to not vote him for him, support him. You're supposed to listen to us,
yeah,
dog. Hey, dog, listen to us. How come you're not listening to us,
yeah,
dog? We brought out Bill Clinton, dog, and we said go against Mamdani.
yeah,
We told you, dogs, to hate Abdul El-Sayed and Hassan Piker. Listen to me. Why aren't you listening to me? And I
that's
think
right.
this is the collective freakout that they realize that the party has moved away from them. They don't have the pulse of the people, that all the money that they can spend from APAC and AI and crypto, it doesn't matter. That yes, these people are, Hassan Piker has said things that you and I disagree with in the past, but people don't care anymore because in a way, we've been numbed by Trump. And so people are willing to overlook some of these things because they're like, wait a second, he wants to tax the billionaires. Oh, I like that. Oh, wait a second. He's against the genocide. I like that. Oh, wait a second. He wants to take on these feckless, weak Democrats. I like that.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. He's not perfect, but you know what? None of these guys are perfect, but he's willing to talk about the main issues that a person like Cory Booker won't. So, okay, we'll roll with you, Abdul Sayed. We'll roll with you, Hassan Piker. We'll roll with you, AOC. We'll roll with you, Mamdani. And this is part why I know people hate acknowledging this, why Trump won. Because Trump is a fraud, unlike these people. These people actually believe in it, right? Trump said, I'm anti-establishment. I'm so anti-establishment that I'm actually a businessman. I'm not even a politician. I'm a bulldozer.
Yeah.
I'll bring it down. And people are like, sure, we want to bring it down. These
Yep.
people still haven't learned the lesson. And speaking about the Cory Bookers and speaking about Israel, because it's all tied, folks. Larry Ellison let me just have you for 5 more minutes. I'll let you
Yeah,
go.
I'm good. I'm good on time.
Larry Ellison is one of the world's richest men. Larry Ellison is the single largest donor to the Friends of the IDF. Larry Ellison and his Nepo baby son, David Ellison, are huge Trump supporters and Netanyahu supporters. Larry Ellison and his Nepo baby David's son have bought Paramount and Skydance. They did the merger. They also bought CBS. What did they do? Brought on Barry Weiss, who her own words are she's a Zionist fanatic, to head CBS. CBS has purged anyone who's simply critical of Israel.
That's
They did a puff piece interview with Netanyahu. Did you see that puff piece
It was
interview yesterday?
disgusting, horrifying, and disgusting.
Yeah. Larry Ellison and David Ellison also have bought TikTok. TikTok, both Democrats and Republicans, including Hillary Clinton, blame TikTok for radicalizing young people all around the world against Israel. Not the genocide. They blame TikTok. So who bought TikTok? Larry Ellison. Who's about to buy CNN and Warner Brothers? Larry Ellison. Who still has their job on CNN and is able to basically do propaganda for Israel? Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, who are auditioning for Larry Ellison. Benjamin Netanyahu comes out yesterday, openly says, yeah, we're going to continue this war. He's a war criminal. Uh, Softballs all day on 60 Minutes, Barry Weiss's 60 Minutes for Netanyahu. We're in this war because he dog-walked Donald Trump into this war, this disastrous, unpopular war. Israel's still committing genocide. The piece came out today in New York Times about 3 hours ago, Qasim, that Israel is doing basically has meddled with Eurovision
Yeah, I
uh,
saw that.
and is using it for soft power. I think they should just ban them completely. And you had Cory Booker yesterday when he was asked on the talk shows, "Hey, should we keep supporting Israel?" You saw his answer. Did you see Cory Booker's answer?
Yeah, he said we absolutely should keep supporting Israel. By the way, Mark Ruffalo is watching and talking about blocking the merger. I'm asking Mark if you want to join our live and talk about this. We'd love to have you on as well. So just let us
Oh,
know.
Mark joined. Hey, Mark, you know my friend Mehdi, and I think you know Qasim. I just want to say, in addition to being a fantastic actor and a great Hulk, I think I sent you a message on Twitter, but why would you respond to me? I don't know you. You're a star. Uh, well done, sir, on being a vocal voice in Hollywood. You, Javier, Hannah Einbender, and others, for speaking out for Palestinian rights and against the genocide, and also for speaking out against the merger. I appreciate you doing it. I know you've gotten a lot of heat, but hopefully, you you use the equity that you've built up
Right.
over your career to speak out. So, well done.
I was saying earlier that there are people who will be remembered for not using their power, and then there are people like Mark Ruffalo who will be honored for generations for using the power that they have. And Mark, we love you to death because of your compassion for all humanity. You have been a relentless. People don't know this. When I first ran for Congress 6, 7 years ago, Mark was one of the first people who came out of the woodwork. This is when Endgame was out, and he's still riding high, but he was an international star at that time too. And little old me, he came out and supported me graciously. And that's when I knew he was the real deal because I was a nobody. I still am a nobody, but he was so thoughtful for his time and his compassion. And even now, he's saying it's only enriched my life in all the ways. This is the kind of, and the other thing about Mark is that he shows us what's possible, right? He shows us that when you are in a position of power, there are ways to use that power the right way. And this is why I get so angry at these politicians because you have a living, breathing example in front of you, a real life superhero who also happens to play one on TV doing these amazing things. Follow that example. So, Mark, thank you,
Yeah,
man. We love you and please keep it up.
yeah, and also, earlier today, Pedro Almodovar, a fantastic Spanish director, came out of Variety, had a piece I was reading where he was very disappointed. He said, "Man, look at the Oscars. There's an ongoing genocide. There's a war. No one said anything except my friend and colleague Javier Bardem." And Javier, man, he used his entire F1 tour.
That's
F1
right.
was his blockbuster movie, very entertaining. Javier Bardem used the entire F1 tour to talk about Palestine. I don't know if you saw it. And in The View, they tried so hard to get him to like move on, but he just used it to talk about Palestine. And Javier Bardem, and also the winners, I'm forgetting the name of this documentary, but the winners of this fantastic documentary talking about Putin and Russia, they were the only two to really use that platform. Javier Bardem says no war, free Palestine, and also others like Melissa Barrera. I think it was Variety that did a piece. Melissa Barrera, folks, was the face of the Scream franchise, the lucrative face of the Scream franchise. The Scream reboot, Scream 1, Scream 2, made insane amount of money. She's the face of it. She's like
Yeah.
the Ned Campbell of the reboot. And all she did was she shared 2.5 years ago an article by Ross Sagel, who is an Israeli scholar in genocide, who said this is a genocide. And Skydance completely eliminated Melissa Barrera. Qasim, are okay? Your
I can
camera.
hear you fine. Yeah, my camera's acting funny, but I can hear you and see you just fine.
All right. So Melissa Barrera got like completely sidelined. So we're seeing this, folks, in real time, right? And you see how the Democratic Party, you all think it's not connected. It's completely connected. They have tried to go after Mamdani. They have tried to go after Abdul El-Sayed. They're trying to go after anyone who's against the billionaires and APAC and crypto and AI. And then Cory Booker, and they've seen the polls. They've seen the polls that every single segment of the Democratic Party, old, young, middle, overwhelmingly now rejects what Israel's doing. And now a majority of Americans are against what Israel's doing. And despite all that, on May 10th, Cory Booker comes out and says we still have to give money to Israel and this genocidal war campaign. Qasim, please then, with all that, explain to me why we still have to vote blue no matter who.
This is, and I don't know why my camera's not working, but I can hear you, and I hope people can hear me just fine too. This is where I want to focus on solutions because I agree the vote blue no matter who mantra at this point seems
You're
annoying and
back.
self-serving. I'm back, but this is where I want to talk about solutions because I think I also want to be careful, and we might disagree on this, and that's okay. That I don't want people to not vote. I still think people need to vote. People bled and died for the right to vote. They marched. They gave up their lives for the right to vote, and I don't want to do anything to dishonor that. And I think that there are ways that we can fight back effectively. 44 states still haven't had their primary elections yet. 44, the majority, vast majority, have not had their primary elections yet. And most of these seats in the Democratic Party are being challenged or have a progressive in them. Cori Bush is running for her seat back. Chris Rabb, we just mentioned. Abdul El-Sayed. I mean, there are, Melad Kiros, Aisha Faruqi, Salaam Bhatti. There are so many amazing candidates who are running the right way. They are people funded. They are not taking APAC money. They're not taking corporate money. They've condemned the genocide in Gaza, the genocide in Sudan, the illegal war on Iran. These are the folks we need to get behind. I think that at this point in time, that is where our focus should be. That channel that rage, that anger that you have at the apathy of the corporate Dems and vote them out in these primary
Yeah,
elections. Because
absolutely.
as bad as corporate Dems are, Republicans are far worse. They're fascists, and we cannot allow them to be continue to be
Absolutely.
elected. And so, as much as I despise the cowardice of corporate Dems, I will still vote for them over Republicans. Let me be very clear about that. And I say that unapologetically. But right now, in these primary elections, we have a chance to have a monumental turnout and to let corporate Dems know that we are not going to tolerate them. Because here's the thing, it's not just about making sure we win in the primary and in this midterm election, it's also about the presidential election. Because next year at this time, heck, 9 months from now, the presidential election is going to be in full swing. And we need to let the Josh Shapiros and the Gavin Newsoms and all these centrists, the Cory Bookers of the world know that you do not stand a snowflake's chance in hell of getting the Democratic nomination by running the same playbook we ran in 2016 and 2020 and 2024. We need actual progressives, actual Democrats who have the party's base in mind. Black women, black men, low income people, people of color in general. This is who this party is comprised of. And here is where you need to pay attention. So I ask folks, look in your local district. And by the way, there's an app called Sway, sway.co, sway.co. It's a free app. You can build your own voter guide for your local family and friends, for your network, so they know who to vote for. And when they go to the voting booth, they can look at your voter guide and they can vote. It's a free app, doesn't cost you a single penny. There's no gimmick. It's just access to who we should be voting for. And that's where I would ask people to stay focused on so that we can do things like what Mark is talking about, blocking the merger. So we can do things like electing people who actually give a damn about us and who won't hesitate to recognize that the rules don't apply anymore. We need to change the rules to benefit the needs of working people. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have scenarios where 40 million more people can vote to codify Roe, but because of a goddamn filibuster or stupid minority rule, we get stuck in the situation that we're in right now.
Um, Amen. What I've talked to Ezra Klein about this, Ezra Levin, sorry, not Ezra Klein,
Yeah.
Ezra Levin of Indivisible, and what we keep urging people is we have a historic opportunity. Primaries. It's on right now. This is
Yes.
it, folks. This is it. And this is going to be critical for not just the present, but the future. Because the primaries is where you, the people, can elect the type of fighter that you want. And you can punish the type of complicit reeks and feckless Democrats who believe that somehow power is their birthright. And they can continue taking money from AI and crypto and the oligarchs and APAC and feather their nest at the expense of the rest of us and our safety and security and our desire to have, a fair and profitable life for us and our children, right? This is it. So
So,
this is the moment right now. Secondly, even if the type of feckless Democrat gets elected, I want you all to be loud because I always remind people that there's more of us than there are of them. Donald Trump has never crossed 50. Let me repeat this. He's never crossed 50.
yep.
The fact that Donald Trump is in his low 30s means mathematically that he has bled out some MAGA voters. That means that some Trump voters have left. We know that for independents, he's in his low 20s.
Yep.
Gossam, you run for office. Can you tell people how disastrous is to have 22% support from independents?
Oh, it's catastrophic, and that's the point. And I think that just adds to the anger that we know he's wounded, we know he's down, and we need Democrats to fight and step up. There's not a lot of times I'll quote Bill Clinton, but there's one thing he said very right. It's attributed to him that in times of deep struggle and strife, people would rather believe somebody who is loud and wrong than right and
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
And my thing is, why can't we be loud and right? Right? I mean, Trump is loud and wrong, and people are like, oh well, he's confident, so therefore he must know what he's doing because he's so confident about it. But he's full of crap. And so what we need people to do is be loud and be right. And we're not. Corporate Democrats are being loud and wrong as well, but loud in a different way because people know that that's not what the party base actually wants. And the one statistic I always come back to is this: more than 90% of Democrats want to codify Roe. Could you imagine a Democrat running on a anti-abortion platform? Impossible. They wouldn't get elected anywhere. But we know that more than 90% of Democratic voters want to stop funding Netanyahu. Yeah, you have Cory Booker coming out and saying, yeah, we should keep funding
Remarkable.
this credibly accused war criminal who's committing genocide. It's just asinine to me. It's insane to me. So the fact that Trump has that low approval rating among independents should be a red siren, five alarm fire to Republicans, and it should be a green flag to Democrats to go in full speed ahead and say, hey, the other 80% of independents that are looking for a new home, hey, you can come to our home because guess what? We are fighting for universal health care, which more than 70% of Americans want. We are fighting to codify Roe, which more than 70% of Americans want. We are fighting to get corporate money out of politics, which more than 90% of Americans want. We are fighting to end this disastrous war in Iran, which more than 80% of Americans want. These are all gimmies, they're low hanging fruit. And the fact that they're not taking them, again, goes back to my point earlier. Vote these people out in the midterm. They are not the fighters we need. They are feckless. They are putting us in danger, and we cannot let them be the vanguards of democracy. Vote for the people like Chris Grab, for Abdul El-Sayed, for Salaam Bhatti, for Melad Kiros, for Aisha Faruqi. The list goes, Graham Planner. The list goes on and on. These are the folks that we have seen champion democracy, champion labor rights and workers' rights and women's rights. These are the folks that deserve our vote. Channel your anger to get them elected.
And 2 points to that. Um, Follow the money, folks. I always tell
Yeah,
you all, follow the money. Um, Bloomberg reported a couple months ago that the oligarchs are spending $500 million. Let me repeat that: 500 million, not nationally, in the upcoming California primaries.
that's
Joe
nuts.
Lonsdale, the co-founder of Palantir, that fascist surveillance company,
Yeah.
he has compiled the supervillains to get about $100 million in a pack called Leading the Future. And his guy is Matt Mahan, who is the mayor of San Jose, a Democrat. AI and crypto and APAC have spent $92 million in the Illinois primary, right? They are
Crazy.
literally filling the coffers of Democrats. So when Gavin Newsom a couple of months ago was asked by Aaron Sorkin Ross, do you support taxing the rich, which is wildly popular across the board? Gossam, Gavin Newsom, who apparently the great white knight with the white hair and the white face and the white name and who's white, and because he's white with white teeth is somehow going to become the next president. He said they're part of they're part of the Big Ten. All right. I believe I'm old enough now. I'm 45, even though I look much older. All these Democrats, all the third way and the corporate Democrats and Nancy Pelosi, according to Axios, gave her a support for Gavin Newsom. They think they're going to waltz their way in. What the strategy is play possum. That's the James Carville strategy. Play possum and we'll win. And Republicans realize, oh my God, we might lose the House, so we're going to cheat. We're
Yeah.
going to cheat. And the Democrats are like, we'll let you cheat because we're weak and we're not built for this fight. But they still think that they will waltz their way in without changing the funding, without changing the position on Israel. And they think the rest of us will simply vote for Democrats because, hey, it's between us or Trump. You're going to vote for us, even though that strategy, folks, did not work in 2024 and did not work in 2016. Qasim, I believe what I feel, I was alive back then. I feel a 2007 energy. I am old enough to remember that
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton was going to waltz to the White House.
Yep.
It was her birthright. She was going to win. And then our Muslim brother, Barack Hussein Obama, said, let me throw my kufi in the ring. And then I remember, he's not Muslim. I'm having a gossip and I are allowed to have this small joke.
Yes.
If he is a Muslim, he's literally the worst Muslim of all time. But I remember, folks, Barack Obama, he started winning primary after primary. And folks, y'all don't remember this. The people who were the most ruthless against Barack Obama, it was Mitch McConnell, but it was also the Democrats.
That's right.
They tried to crush him. And all these people who say, don't criticize Democrats, vote blue no matter who, keep your mouth shut. I'm like, sorry, in a democracy, this is good.
That's right.
You need this friction because I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama threw his hat in the ring. And guess what happened? That friction, what did it bring about? It didn't destroy the Democratic Party. He crushed McCain. And not only did he crush McCain, what did he do? He turned around and said, hey, Hillary, you want to be my Secretary of State? So if anything, it helped the Democrats. It made a stronger Democratic Party, and it was good for democracy. I think what we're going to get, Qasim, all these people who think it's going to be Gavin. Let me just end my rant this way. I want you to then respond. I completely do not buy the bullshit that America needs a white man. Bullshit. Mamdani's not a white man. All right. I think they want a messenger who's willing to fight, who is authentic, who's willing to take on the oligarchy, who's willing to take on the billionaires, who says no to genocide. I think they get someone like that who has specifics about affordability and accountability. It could be a person of color. It could be a Muslim. It could be a woman. They'll rally behind that person. That's number one. I completely disregard this bullshit narrative that we can only have a white Christian man run for president. Number one. Number two, I don't think we've even seen the 2028 presidential candidate yet. I think it'll be a dark horse who will come out of nowhere, someone who hasn't thrown their hand in the ring, much like a Mamdani and Obama. Your take.
Completely agreed. Look, I've done the math on this and I've written about this. I wrote this after the 2024 election. When you look at the last 5, 6 presidential election cycles, when Democrats had a robust primary, a meaningful primary, like they did in 2008 and to a decent extent in 2020, not only did they win the presidency, but they also won the White House, the House and the Senate. They swept. When they didn't have a robust primary, then not only did they lose the presidency, but they lost the House and the Senate as well. And it's because when they had a robust primary, they trusted voters and voters felt heard. And so even if your top person didn't make it through, you felt validated that, hey, at least my vote got
There you go.
heard. There was a decent chance. And guess what? Yeah, I voted for Hillary, but she didn't get the nomination. But guess what? She's going to be Secretary of State. So I want to be part of this. I'm going to be able to be involved in a meaningful way.
There you go.
When they don't have the primary, it's a middle finger to voters, and it tells them, you're too stupid and we're elitist and we're going to tell you who to nominate. And we're seeing that happen again, by the way. In the DCCC is already deciding, I mentioned earlier, 44 states haven't had their primaries. They've already decided who the nominee is going to be. We talked about my friend Salaam Bhatti, a poverty lawyer running in Virginia's first congressional district. He's been doing the work on the ground for a decade. Phenomenal organizing work, phenomenal legislation passed through his advocacy as a poverty lawyer. The DCCC has already decided they are going to fund the pro APAC candidate, the one who can't even condemn genocide, who doesn't support universal health care in a deep blue district. They're going to support this other person over the guy who's actually running on a platform people care about. And this is why it's so dangerous. I remember talking to Maurice Mitchell, the president of the Working Families Party, who, by the way, everybody should support the Working Families Party.
He's on tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Ask him about this conversation because I know he'll love to repeat it. But he said, look, at the Working Families Party, we believe in a Big Tent party, but not so big that the billionaires exploiting workers are in the same party as the workers being exploited. Those billionaires don't need to be here at all. And I think
We
two
don't
things can
need
be true.
listen, folks, we don't need genocidal sociopaths.
We
We
don't.
don't need white Christian nationalists like
No,
Tucker
we don't.
Carlson. I'm gonna go a step further. You don't need a Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Nope.
you don't need Nick Fuentes,
At all.
and you don't need AI and crypto psychopaths like Sam Altman, and Elon Musk, who, do not care about you or your future generation.
Exactly
If
right.
that's not my tent. That's your tent. You start your tent over there. I'll create a bigger, better tent with better food, better looking people, and better music.
I completely agree. And I will say this, two things can be true at once. That racism and misogyny played a real role in the 2024 election, and
Yes.
Kamala Harris absolutely faced it. And I trust the Democratic base, the left of the of part of the country, and independents enough to know that if we do nominate a black or brown candidate, or God forbid, a woman candidate, that they are going to be judged by their policies more than their gender or the color of their skin. We have to trust the base of our party. There's no doubt racism exists. And I also believe that if we have the right candidate with the right policies, they're going to be extraordinarily successful. We've seen that with Barack Obama. We've seen that with Zoran Mamdani. And I was talking to Graham Plattner about this, where I asked him directly, did you have any nervousness talking about or calling out the genocide in Gaza when you launched your campaign? He goes, I was advised to just stay mute on it and not talk about it. And I said, I can't just be quiet about it. It's genocide. That's what it is. I can't just lie about it. I'm just going to be honest about it. And I think that people are going to respond. And he told me that he gets the biggest applause when
Yep,
he calls out the genocide in the reddest parts of Maine by
absolutely.
saying that we are funding a genocide in Gaza instead of building schools here at home. And people recognize that and they believe that and they trust that. That is where I want the party to trust its actual base. And we didn't talk about this earlier, but when someone like Ken Barton runs on a platform of releasing the autopsy report and then decides, you know what? It's navel gazing. It's not a big deal. Just trust me, bro. That destroys trust. And people don't want to be involved with the party when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, and folks, speaking about participation, meaningful participation, it goes back, Qasim and I said this, but people didn't listen to us because we're brown men and happen to be Muslim. What do we keep saying, Qasim, to the Democrats? Because we come from these communities. We said the bar is so low, it's in hell.
Yeah.
You need to win over people who are radicalized by the genocide in Gaza. We kept saying it's not just the Arabs and the Palestinians and the Muslims. This is a global
Yeah.
issue. This is a Gaza generation. They told us to shut up. No. Then the bar was so low. We said, can you at least have one Palestinian speaker at the DNC?
Yep.
In fact, I even wrote about this. I said it. I said, this is beautiful. Rose Goldberg Paulin, the Jewish American mother of the Israeli soldier who was unfortunately later found killed. You had her on, gave a beautiful speech. Everyone applauded, Qasim, right? You applauded, I applauded.
I was there. I applauded. Yeah.
Right after her, have a Palestinian mother say the same exact thing. Then have them hold hands. They said no.
Yep.
In fact, what we heard was many donors who love them, their APAC in Israel, said, no way. If you have a Palestinian, we're not going to support you. And furthermore, just to see how just condescending, the racism, the colonialism, we can't trust the Palestinian speaker to be on message. So we said, you know what? Wait till the results come out. you'll see that the main reason, not the only reason, the main reason why 18 million Democrats stayed at home was because of Gaza. They're like, no, no one cares about Gaza. It's a brown issue. It's a Muslim issue. The YouGov poll came out. YouGov poll said the main issue, not the only issue, why 18 million Democrats stayed home, not the only issue, Gaza.
Yep.
Now you saw the autopsy. According to the Axios leak of people who have seen the autopsy, the DNC autopsy reveals that one of the main reasons why people stayed at home, 18 million Democrats stayed at home, people, remember that, was because of Gaza. And even now, they say we would rather burn down the party, Qasim, than give up sucking at the teat of Netanyahu, Israel, and AIPAC. I think enough's enough. I think they're missing
Yep.
the moment. I don't think they have their finger on the pulse.
Yep.
They don't have the majority. And what I will say is this, folks. It's Cliff. Hey, Cliff. What I will say is this. You can even move these centrist milquetoast Democrats. They are responsive to votes, and human beings are responsive to what people say about them, especially politicians. Let me give you an example, and I'll give you the final word. I'm here in Virginia. I'm originally from California, but I moved here because I married up. As everyone knows, I've been here for 13 years now. Abigail Spanberger ran as like the most white, centrist, milquetoast, moderate, responsible, like center left Democrat, will never call herself progressive, CIA lady, right? Then she realized, wait a second, I see where the wind is blowing. Mikey Sherrill, I see where the wind is blowing. People want me to fight. So she came in, and what did she do? F you, ICE. We're like, hey, Abigail Spanberger, we didn't, all right. She stood up for transgender kids. We're like, all right. She removed these Trumpers who were in the school board. We're like, all right. So they're now responding, Qasim, to the pressure that we, the people, are putting on them. But when it came to actually fighting, she fell short.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the point that we need to double down on over and over again, that when you vote for somebody, that's not a pass for them to just do whatever they want. That's a right for you to hold their feet to the fire every single day of the week. And this whole mantra that, don't criticize our side because it's gonna depress turnout is nonsense. You vote for
2008
somebody.
election. Anyone who says that, 2008 election.
Exactly right. You vote for the person you think is best, and then you haunt their dreams every single day of the week. That's just the only way forward. And so my ask of folks is, I know we've talked about a lot of doom and gloom, but above it all, and Wajahat, I think we agree on this. I'm hopeful. I know you're hopeful because we have to be. We have children, and we see all people's children of all faiths, colors, creeds, and backgrounds, and we want them to have a better future than we have right now. And that only comes through hope. And that's why when I see people like Cliff, who just joined in, my Jewish brother, when I see people like Mark join in, just the heart of a champion, I get inspired because I know that the future is bright. And so take all that rage, channel it into something productive in your local community. I'll give you one win, by the way, Wajahat. That we talk about data centers, right? I'm here in Naperville, Illinois. It's one of the more affluent neighborhoods in the country, and data centers were coming here. And our city council is still a pretty strong right leaning city council, ironically enough. And it was a pretty much done deal. We activated, we organized, we went and spoke for the city council. We had hundreds of people show up. And when they finally took the vote, guess what? The vote lost 6-1. We shut down data centers in our community because we
Well done.
activated and organized. None of us are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. None of us are, super powerful politicos who have, who are donating $5,000 to candidate after candidate. We're just a bunch of ordinary neighbors who got together and said, "No, enough is enough. We want change to happen." And so I give that example to show you guys that, hey, there can be meaningful hope in this space, but you need to get activated and organized. You need to channel your anger and to do something productive with it. I put in the link to sway.co. I'm going to keep putting it in here simply because this is an app that's free and it allows us to organize in an effective way and allows us to be able to build a voter list of the people who are doing the right things. So get involved, get engaged there. I would love to keep talking. We've got almost 2,000 people watching. I have to get to my next meeting. But for those who are able to support Wajahat, please continue to support him. Those who can support me, please continue to support me. But the only way through this is together. And I believe that together we will get through this.
I'll end on this note because someone asked me this question, Wajahat, do you have hope? And I'll say the following. I'm a pragmatist. If there's a comet coming in the sky, my job is not to lie to you people and say there's no comet, don't look up. My job is to say there's a comet coming in the sky and then mobilize all of us to blast that comet.
That's right.
If the comet is going to come no matter what, then my job is to save as many people as I can
That's
from
right.
the comet's path of destruction. Because we got two Muslims, let me get Muslimy for a second. Our faith compels hope. It commands hope. You're not allowed as a Muslim to give up hope, right?
That's right.
You're supposed to say God is merciful and God is hopeful. There's a beautiful saying of the Prophet Muhammad, which is also shared in the Old Testament, is that even if you see the day of judgment coming around the corner, plant a seed.
That's right.
And in my life, I have seen that even when I think, read my book, it's all there. But there's been moments in my life where I'm like, I don't see a way out of it. I'm like, I'm completely broke. My parents are in jail. My friggin' daughter has cancer. How do I write my way out of this, gossip? And then, as a writer, I always think, well, my job is to keep writing and flip the page. As long as I don't see FIN, that means the story is still being written. And if
That's
the
right.
story is still being written, that means there can always be a plot twist. There can always be a plot twist, which is why, as a father of three children, and I think you agree, Qasim, I cannot afford to give into cynicism and apathy. I've lived a
Right.
good life. I was talking to you know, Qasim about this before, right before we
Yeah.
press record, because Qasim is took some time off because he needs to take some more time off, right?
Yeah.
Because of so much anxiety and stuff. But I'm like, listen, man, I've lived a good life. I really mean this. I've lived a good life. If God takes me today, I have no complaints. I lived much longer than I ever thought I would live, but I got three kids, and that generation deserves better. And our generation is tasked to not give in to cynicism and apathy, which is comforting, but is also cheap and lazy. Hope, investing in hope means you will be betrayed. Your country will disappoint you.
Yeah.
Your countrymen will disappoint you. But it means that you're at least in the ring, Qasim, pushing the ball forward, right? And that's why I say invest in hope even in hopeless times. And at the very least, be in the ring pushing the ball forward so that our children can see that as a role model. My dad didn't give up. My dad tried. He fought the good fight. He fought the good fight with a smile on his face, and he loved my mom, right? And he took me out for ice cream. You know what? Fighting the good fight, I want to be on that side.
That's right.
I want to write that story. I want to be the hero of the narrative, right? So sorry for my rant. I think
Oh,
about this a
beautiful.
lot. I think about this a lot. I refuse to give in to apathy and cynicism because it's cheap and lazy. My children and your children and the next generation deserve better. It's going to be tough, folks, for several years. There's generational damage that has been done to America. It's going to take us a long time to crawl out of it, but the story is still being written. And I'll be damned if I let fascists write my story and my children's story. So there you go. Sorry for my little rant.
No, this is beautiful. I love that. If you'll allow, I just want to share one quick story as well, because Mother's Day just passed, and I wrote about from the Islamic perspective of this aspect of hope, right? And as we know, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his father died before he was born. His mother died at 6, and it was in those early years, it was actually a wet nurse named Halima who raised him. And then even when his mother Amina passed at 6, even in her dying prayers, it was hope for her son and for the impact that he would have on humanity. And as we see, the impact that he had was revolutionary, greater than anyone could have imagined. And the other reason why I encourage people to have hope for the next generation is because it bleeds into the next generation. My daughter, our youngest, she's 10 years old, and it was bedtime. And I'll just close with the story. It's such a funny story. And she wasn't going to sleep. And I said, "All right, if you don't go to bed, then the monsters in the closet are going to come out and get you." Just try to tease her. And she goes, "There's monsters in my closet?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, what are their names?" And I said, "No, I don't think you understand. They're monsters. They're bad guys." She goes, "No, they can't be that bad. If they're in my closet, that means they're in my room. That means they have to respect me." And so now we've built a relationship with these imaginary monsters, and I have to have a conversation with them every night before we go to bed. And to me, that's from a child who's hopeful that, hey, this is my turf, this is my territory, this is my domain. Monsters have nothing on me. And now we have this funny, hilarious relationship with monsters. And so for me, it's all about the framing and the perspective that we give our
Right.
children. And we need to
Absolutely.
give them that framing of hope in everything we
Yeah.
do.
And I tell my kids, and this is for all of our kids, go for everything. Go for the appetizers, Go for the chips, go for the salsa, go for the cheese that I can't eat, but I will anyway because I'm lactose intolerant. It's delicious. Go for the enchiladas, go for the biryani, go for the hamburgers, go for the desserts, go for the cheesecakes, go for the chai tea, which means tea, go for the coffee, go for everything. And that's what I want. I want you all to go for everything. Stop limiting yourself. Stop limiting your capacity to dream. Qasim, I know I'm kidding you for a minute, but I gotta go
No.
too. But
Yeah.
look what they've done. They've limited our capacity to even dream, Qasim. You can't imagine having a female president.
Hmm.
You cannot even imagine having a person of color as president, bro. Don't even
Yeah.
about universal childcare. Don't even dream about affordable education. They've taken away our ability to even imagine. So, which is why I think the imagination, folks, the story, it all begins there. You tell our children everything belongs to you. You go for everything, you fight for everything. And then I'll end on this because I tell my kids this. Once you, inshallah, get your seat at the table, your job isn't finished. Your job is to look at the kid outside of the tent, extend your hand, and bring that kid to the table and set a plate for him so that kid can eat as well.
That's
And
right.
that's how all of us eat, folks. That's how all of us eat. Sorry for our preaching today. We got a bit Muslimy. We got in a little bit of a zone. But that's how. Someone asked me the question, am I hopeful? That's my answer to you. Thank you, Qasim. I kept you much longer, but we were in a zone today. For those who are joining us, nearly 1,800 people, we make the case for why Democrats can and should fight against this fascist movement, why we have the majority, why we have the power, why we have the voice, and why we have the better story. I hope we end on a hopeful note after spending 30, 40 minutes talking about some depressing things. Everyone, please subscribe to Qasim's fantastic Substack. Qasim and I have kept everything for free. We're terrible capitalists. We believe that information should be free and that people should be informed in this fight for our democracy and freedom. However, we depend on the kindness of strangers. If you can become a paid subscriber, please do because we got a whole bunch of kids. Thank you all for watching. I think I'm glitching right now.